there. Can all of you see my screen? Yes.
Yep.
So in case all of you were not aware, is that on Friday is SEL Day, and we are just thrilled from SEL4NJ to be able to bring you the series of webinars and workshops over the course of SEL week. There's 9 in total. Every single workshop will be available, the recording on our website, sel4nj.org. We really encourage everyone participating to sign up for SEL Day. And just a kind of a nod to the people who've been working so hard behind the scenes to bring SEL Day to the entire world: the Urban Assembly, 6 Seconds, SEL for US. And I have to say, SEL for New Jersey has done its part as well in bringing you all this. Just for those of you who are just joining us now, SEL4NJ is part of a national organization called SEL4US. It's very much a grassroots alliance, and we're represented across the country, which is really a very rich and deep sort of network of people, educators, community organizations, associations, organizations, everyone working together to promote and advocate for best practice SEL. It's really wonderful. SEL4NJ was one of the very first state alliances. We're very proud of that. And we're now an organization with over 2,600 members that really represent a cross sector of all of those within the state who are valuing the future of our students and our schools. So if you have not joined yet, please join sel4nj.org. We are a not-for-profit, and there's no cost at all to attend. Or to sign up. That's basically what we're focusing on. And just because we want to move forward to Erica's presentation as soon as we can, just want to let you know if you are new to SEL Day, the idea is that globally we celebrate and highlight and make visible all the great work that's being done around SEL in the entire world, on SEL Day. And how people do that is, one, by attending events such as this and then sharing out on SEL Day on social media. But also people share an artifact. They create a photo, a video, all sorts of things that just can be posted. And then a whole lot of us behind the scenes, we share, we like, we repost. So it is important that you tag SEL Day and SEL4NJ so that we can help spread the word. This photo was taken, that's an artifact, the second SEL Day, the first year we were back in school for SEL. That's why all the kids are wearing masks. So last year, ginormous success, 12 proclamations from 12 different states, 40 million views. Globally, President Biden and his wife, Dr. Biden, issued a letter. There was a bipartisan resolution, believe it or not, recognizing SEL Day. So this is something that it's an exciting thing to be a part of. And I have to say, New Jersey has embraced SEL Day over the years, and we have really, really been a leader in spreading the wonderful word. So we hope that that's the same this year. So again, all you need to do is create an artifact and share it, the social media platform of your choice. In the past, we focused on Twitter, but we all know Twitter is now X. It's gotten a bit complicated. So any social platform of your choice, as long as you use hashtag SEL Day and tag SEL4NJ, we will find you and reshare and repost. So please sign up. Also on selday.org, you will automatically, once you sign up, receive the link for a wonderful full day, I think 9 seminars in total, workshops on SEL Day. That will be really just fascinating as well. So there you go, selday.org. And so with that said, we are going to turn it over to Erica. And we're just thrilled that Erica is here to share her insights around this incredibly important sort of aspect of school. So with that said, Erica, I'll let you introduce yourself, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Brenton. I'm actually going to start, I'll share my screen now, and then I'll do a little intro. So let's see here. And Okay, here we go. So, just start here. So, my name is Erica Brenton again. I am a consultant with the School Culture and Climate Initiative, and I work with schools around mostly northern New Jersey. And I support them in the 3-year school climate assessment and improvement process. So, actually, a lot of the work that I'm bringing you today is based on a school that we work with. So it's exciting to be able, I'm not going to name them because they probably would want to be anonymous, but a lot of the work is from our work together, and it's been a really valuable experience for all. So let's get started. We're going to start, actually, before we do this, I'm actually curious who is in the room here, because I know it's been changing a little bit over the course of the day. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat box, just jotting down your role at your school. You can also include your school and then where you're calling in from. Oops, sorry about that. Hold on, I'm going to get that back. Okay, here we go. Hi, Joe. Michelle. I won't actually say hello to everyone, but I'll say it in my mind. So we have some middle schools, elementary schools, public schools, independent schools. That's awesome. District folks, wonderful. Okay, we'll do another just like 30 seconds to a minute. Just, some counselors, supervisors. Okay, so even though we're going to move forward, I encourage you to just please use the chat. We're going to use that a lot over the course of the session. I'll be looking at it, Liz will be looking at it, and Trish will be looking at it, and they'll call things out to me. So let's move forward, but it's nice to see everyone and nice to meet everyone. Okay, so we're going to start with a little warm up, and this is called my delight warm up. And so the idea is I want you to think about one delight that you've recently experienced, and I'm going to actually read to you what a delight is. Excuse me, this is from an article that I recently read in the New York Times that I really enjoyed, because we've been focusing so much on gratitude recently, and this is a little bit different than gratitude. So I'll read it to you, and I'll put the article in the chat. So this is the basic premise of a delight practice is simple. You make a point to notice things in your everyday life that delight you. This could be anything: a pretty flower, a smile you share with a stranger, the sight of a person playing a trumpet while riding a unicycle down a major Philadelphia thoroughfare. That was a true story, according to the author. Nothing is too small or absurd. And then whenever you notice that something that delights you, you lift your arm, you raise your index finger in the air, and you say out loud and with enthusiasm, delight. Yes, even when you're alone. And ideally, you share your delights with other person. I'm just going to read this one other paragraph real quick. The concept of prioritizing delight may sound silly or almost irresponsible given the heaviness of current events, feelings of burnout, upcoming presidential elections, but this is exactly why it's so important. Far from being frivolous, we make a point to notice and share things we find delightful and can improve our moods, outlooks, and relationships, and even physical health. So one delight I recently had was just a beautiful spring day yesterday and just feeling the really fresh spring air. So if you all would be open to sharing with me one delight that you are experiencing now or you've recently experienced, I would be excited to learn more. Ooh, French toast. Nice, nice, Trish. Why weren't we invited? A beautiful spring-like day. Yes, not today, but maybe yesterday, or although, Joe, I think you're in New Jersey, so I think you may be in a rainy day like me. Yesterday, yeah. Oh, the bike ride in the sunshine sounds lovely. Oh my gosh, Leah, that sounds amazing. Oh, that's nice, Liz. Listening to our kids talk to one another. Wonderful. So I just wanted to read this quick little thing as you all keep going is I like the distinction between the delight and the gratitude practice because I'll read it. It says, gratitude practices are popular for good reason. If you make one a habit, it includes reduced symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress. But if you keep a gratitude practice long enough, you may find yourself expressing your appreciation for the same things over and over again, almost out of sense of obligation. But in contrast, a delight practice taps into the deep power of gratitude without risk of becoming trite. So thank you all for being open to sharing your delights with me. And again, please feel free to keep jotting those down in the chat. Oh, Marissa, a cup of coffee. I'm kind of craving that right now. So I'm taking your delight in and I'll make it mine if that's okay. Okay, so let's move on. So today we are going to really think about all of the expectations that we have for your school communities, your student behavioral expectations. So this work was really born again out of work I did with a school based in New Jersey, where we really came together to think about all the different factors that were coming into the ways that we think about student behavior. And we were pretty blown away by how many there were. So this is really an opportunity to think about it, but also think about ways to make it more effective and more efficient. So we'll look a little bit at an example of a school that we did this with, and then I'm going to take you through a 4-step process to think about how you could do this with your own school community, and we'll sort of stop along the way. I'm hoping we can have one breakout room to be able to talk about this with one another. And then we'll open it up for Q&A, and then we'll have a closing. Okay, so let's start off by thinking about how students should behave in your school communities. So I'm gonna read through this, and as I read through it, maybe you can have some thoughts that pop into your head and that you may be able to share with others. So if you were to think of all of the behavioral expectations, or sometimes we also call these rules, for students in your school, what would they be? And I want you to consider what the district goals might be. And you could even think about, in addition to the goals, maybe you have some district core values. Maybe you have school specific goals. So the district may have one set of goals or core values, and your specific school that you work in has a different set. And then I want you to think about all the classroom rules. So each individual classroom may have their own spin on the rules or behavioral expectations. And then possibly there may be other areas of the school that have even different behavioral expectations or rules. So the cafeteria, the hallways, the playground, all of those are I want you to take into consideration. And then we kind of have these bottom 2 bullets, which are a little bit more sometimes focused in the guidance department. Sometimes they can be classroom teacher based, but oftentimes we find them with the school social workers are character education themes. And then, maybe those are monthly themes that you work with small groups of students or large group of students. And then, of course, we have our social emotional competencies, those wonderful competencies, and how are those interwoven? And so on the next screen, I'm going to actually show you what we did when we broke this down in this one particular school that I've been sharing about. And so I'm going to read through this with you, and then maybe you could jot some notes down with these 6 columns, because after this, we're going to arrange ourselves into some breakout rooms where we can talk about some of the things we're noticing in our own school communities. So in this particular school district, we had our district core values, and those were that students should be able to self-assess. So again, these are, I think, a little bit more, they're not just behavioral, they're also academic, but of course, behavioral comes into play here too. They need to ask probing questions. They should develop a process to draw conclusions and support them, and they will be continuously required to hone their ability to collaborate and work in teams. So these are all the things that the district is hoping. Then we have our school-wide expectations, and these were posted all over the school, in the hallways, in the classrooms, and they included 7 expectations: that students are prepared, they're safe and responsible, they do the right thing even when no one's looking, students respect each other in our school, choose actions and attitude, learn from mistakes, and also that they are kind. And it's kind of funny because when I asked the principal how these were created, and he's a very self-reflective, smart, wonderful person, he's like, well, I made them. He's like, these are the things that I'm hoping for my students. And I think even as he said that, he realized that because it wasn't done in collaboration with the students or with the teachers, that he was finding that even he reflected that they were falling a little flat, or they weren't as effective as they could be. And then we have our character ed program. So these are the things that the social worker was doing in the school. Making each month had a different theme, like responsibility, self-discipline, trustworthiness, and you could read the rest of the column. So those were taught to students in a way that was, uh, either in small groups or with whole classes or with individual students. And then we had our classroom expectations. So this was actually an example of just one classroom that we were in, was be kind, be responsible, be respectful. But this was one teacher's version of her, what she wanted for her students in her own class. We move on to the 5th column, which are the social emotional competencies. And those were all tied into the character ed programs, but they were something that the school felt they needed to highlight, or the district felt they needed to highlight. And then we have some other areas here. So we have announcements about, when I was at the school this particular morning, there were some announcements in the morning messages about digital safety. And we were just all kind of laughing because in all of this, I actually feel like tired even talking about it. There's just so much. And then where does digital safety come into play? And so it just felt like layer upon layer upon layer. There was also a guest speaker about bullying a few weeks before, and then they had Respect Week. And so again, I think you're kind of sensing a theme here, is that there's just so much that we want for our students, and yet is it too much? And is it sticking, and what is sticking? So what we're going to do now, and I know a lot of you have your videos off, and I know it's, we're in the middle of a school day here, so that's okay. But I think it would be really helpful if we had some conversations about this. So Liz and Trish, can you remind me again how I create breakout rooms?
Yes, Rob, do you think you could create some breakout rooms for us?
Sure. How many rooms do you need, Erica?
Well, I was thinking maybe 4 people in each. And again, if you're able to at least unmute yourselves to share, it would be great to. Hey everyone, welcome back. I think some folks are starting to trickle in. Thank you all for being a part of that. Let's see where we are in numbers here. So just a quick question for you all, and you could feel free to either unmute yourselves, or you can feel free to enter into the chat. Just anything that popped up in those conversations. Sorry, I'm there we go. Anything that popped up for you in those conversations that you think would be helpful for the larger group? We'd love to hear any thoughts or any questions, sort of follow-up questions or anything that came to mind.
One thing that I had brought up, because our district has all of pretty much everything in place, everything that's on this last slide, we're doing. And I've seen my child go from elementary school, and he's in high school now. So I've pretty much seen all the different areas. And despite, student of the month and there's recognitions being given, and despite all of the embedded SEL that we do, and the follow-ups when there are incidents that happen, there seems to be like three groups. There's like the kids who get it and then live it and embrace it. The kids who don't, that, we just got to keep working on them. There's this group in the middle that's a little apathetic and it's just kind of looks at it all as lip service. And they don't believe that things are going to change or things are different. And, the bad things come along and they just got to like, well, whatever, I'll deal with it on my own. Because even when I talk about it, nothing seems to change. It's like this little weird problem area that I see crop up.
And what grade, are you in the elementary?
I'm a Board of Ed member.
Okay.
Like I said, my child has been in the school district. He's in ninth grade now. So I've seen it everywhere. And, with his friend groups, and I'm very active in all, like it was Mom's Club and PTO. And so I've heard the same. It's not just my child's experience. I've heard it from so many other people that have very similar, realities with their children. And then the parents kind of get apathetic. They're like, well, I'm not even going to bother complaining or talking to anyone or reaching out when there's a problem because nothing gets done. And I'm talking in terms of not being nice and the bulliness and all of that. So that's a huge part of the SEL, stopping all of that stuff or trying to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Christina. And one of the
Yeah.
things that we do as an organization that's like a really important value and embedded practice is when we work with schools, we have student groups, student team. And so we pull kids or we invite kids from the school community that may not necessarily be on the student council or the most like active member of the school to really get
Yes.
cross representation of voice. And so something like we could obviously talk outside of this, or if you're interested or anyone on this call is kind of interested in learning more, it's a very core component of what we believe really affects change is the student voice piece, not only allowing time and space for voice, but also how do we respond to student voice. So it's a really good point, and thank you for mentioning that.
You're welcome. Thanks. I'd definitely be interested. It's a huge thing. We actually have strategic planning going on, and the only students that were there were my son, who was kind of tugged along, and I found out afterwards the other students were student council members that were voluntold to kind of be there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where are our students?
Yeah.
We need to get them here. This is important. This is their wheel. This is where they can, make change, affect change.
Yes, agency is so important. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else just briefly want to share anything they feel free to enter in the chat, or Liz just entered our organization in the chat box. Okay, I'm going to keep moving along just for time purposes, but would love to hear any thoughts you have moving along. So please, again, feel free to enter your thoughts down, or I'm also a big fan of just unmuting yourself, but I'm going to keep moving along here. So the second step that we took in considering all of the different kinds of expectations that we have for students is to really think about organizing and simplifying them. And so what we found was that we took three kind of core, I guess, categories that are used a lot in like a lot of SEL kind of best practice organizations and curriculum. And that's the we take care of ourselves, we take care of others, and we take care of our school. And so I just have a little box in the left-hand corner. It's like another example: be responsible, be respectful, be safe. So, the idea behind it, though, is that we want to think about really bringing together all of the different things that we want for students and then really kind of making these bigger buckets. And so when we looked at these three buckets, we take care of ourselves, we take care of others, we take care of our school, we found that all the other things fit into these categories. So the sort of the black writing with the bullets is the school expectations that the principal created. And so some of them fell under, ourselves, some of them fell under others, some of them fell under our school. We also looked at the guidance department and what they were working in. And so we we bucketed it in like that. And so then we thought about, well, if these are the three large categories, these are the three sort of umbrella categories, then all of these other things can kind of be like little learning, like little bits of learning that we can promote to students, but we can always categorize these things under these three. We take care of ourselves, we take care of others, and we take care of our school. And then really, really importantly is not only do classroom teachers and students have access to this, but anyone working in a school community has access to this. So if you have a teacher aide who's working outside at recess, they may not know or have access to all of the different little, bits of the, what the school was doing, what the guidance was doing, what the district was doing, but they could have access to these three categories. We also found that it was really helpful for bus drivers and bus aides to have these three areas to fall under. So no matter where students are, they could have these expectations of them. And we found that these were not only really helpful for adults, but they were also really helpful for kids. So this was the second step. And again, if you have, I'm going to move on to the next slide, but if you have any questions about this, we also will make these tools available after this session. So you'll have some of these charts that you can work with. So after we organized and simplified, and kind of just like the, sorry, Chris, I think it was Christine was just saying, was it Christine? Christina. Okay. Christina was saying that, now, okay, the adults have done all of this heavy lifting. Now we want students to have agency, right? We want them to be included in the process. And so what we did is we thought of like considering these new behavioral categories or frameworks, we want to consider how to invite students into that process. So during a month, we had 4 weeks that we rolled things out. This could look like a different timeline in different schools. A lot of times this is done at the beginning of the year, but we did it in January, almost as like kind of like a kickoff to the new year. So during week 1, we had each classroom teacher set learning goals with their students. And so the idea here was that each student got to set their own learning goal. So one student could be, I want to, increase my, reading ability. And one student may say, I want to get really a lot better at gym. And another student may say, like, I want to develop my friendships more. I guess that would sort of be a learning goal, but whatever it was really, it was really student driven. And so the teacher collected all of the students' learning goals, and they did, like, this was an elementary school, so they did some cute, like they wrote it on a snowflake. And then the second week they came together, and this was all done during like a morning meeting kind of structure, is that the teacher would then said to the students, okay, so you all have these learning goals, and this is wonderful. So like, what do we need to do to make sure that everybody's learning goals are met? So, Charlie wants to be a better reader, and Sally wants to do better, like, work on her friendship. So what do we need to do as a class community to make sure that everyone gets their learning goals met? And so then students would come up with all of these rules, right? And so you kind of have kids who are younger, maybe saying like, well, we have to get along, or no pushing, or no talking. And you have older kids saying something, maybe a little bit more sophisticated, like, I need to make sure that I, bring in my homework, and I have my weekly planner, and I'm, respectful of other people, whatever it is. And so the teachers each collected this sort of like long list of rules and that students generated. And then the third week is the teacher would then take all of the rules that the students created together and have it like on a big chart or something, or maybe they had them on Post-its. And they said to them, okay, so all of these rules really fall under 3 categories. And then what they did is they showed them, and I'm just going to go back to the slide before, is they showed them these 3 categories. We take care of ourselves, we take care of others, and we take care of our school. And they said, would you agree that all of the rules you brought in, all of the things you think we should be doing fall under these 3 buckets? And the students, it was hard to not agree because they all kind of did. And then what the teachers did is the classroom teacher would say like, okay, well, these are actually going to be our 3 new school rules. And another, I don't know if they like the word rule or they use the word behavioral expectations, but it was announced that these are the 3 new behavioral expectations or rules in the school. And after they did that, the principal during week 4, this is sort of just like the first step to week, the bring the rules to life. He had a whole school assembly where he had everyone bring in all of their learning goals and all of the rules that they created. And he made this like huge assembly where he said, oh my gosh, like this is a celebration. These are these 3 new things we're going to try. And it was like a very fun kind of celebratory moment for the school. And it really brought everyone together on the same page. So we took all of these, you know, this huge list of expectations for students and really consolidated it into these 3 where everyone in the community was coming around them. So I'm just going to stop here for a moment before I go on to this next slide, which is bringing like, okay, so now we have these 3, right? And we're celebrating, but how do you actually make sure that they stick? But I just want to stop real quick to see if anybody has any questions or comments before I move on. Please feel free to write down anything in the chat. Or you can unmute yourself.
In the breakout room that I was in, and Lorraine, please jump in and share your thoughts. But Lorraine made a really good point that even though there's a lot of rules, sometimes they overlap. So this is putting a structure really to that overlap. So I think that's another really good way to think about this. That
Yes.
You may be using synonyms, and there is overlap. But this kind of organizes it better in their heads. And there's Lorraine now.
Yeah, I mean, it does consolidate it. And I guess I like the plan, the 1 week, the next week, the next week. So you could really see how it builds and pulls it all together.
Yes, great. Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, you're right. And you know what's interesting is there are so many overlaps. And so I think sometimes we just need to be so clear for students, right? Like what exactly are we talking about when we talk about X, Y, and Z? And so this really helps to sort of start that process of clarification. Thank you. Thanks, Trish. Okay. And so now begins like the hard work, right? Which is, oh, this is all hard work, but okay, so now we have these expectations of students, but how do we actually make it stick? And so I have some suggestions here, but you know, I also feel like the people in the room are the people who also really hold a lot of the wisdom and the knowledge. So if you have another way and you know, you think the community here would benefit, please feel free to jot it down in the chat or unmute. So really, we like to think about this work being in the first beginning 6 weeks of school, just really setting up those expectations, really thinking about laying those foundations. And then, you know, you put that work in and then you sort of reap the fruits of your labor as the school year moves on. We also thought about having like a monthly focus. So if you take, you know, the 3 buckets, one of the things that the principal of the school that I'm working with is doing is he's right now working on just a taking care of yourself month. So he's, you know, in those 3 sort of behavioral expectations we just looked at. And so he's having classroom teachers and different staff members around the school have these big buckets. And every time a student sees somebody taking care of themselves or they see somebody else taking care of themselves, they can put a little note in the bucket with their name on it and just kind of highlight them, compliment them. And then he's going to have a big school assembly and he's going to pull names out of the bucket. I'm not exactly sure what he's going to do to celebrate. Again, I think that I was in the session before where, you know, we talked a little bit about extrinsic versus intrinsic rewards. So some schools like to do, you know, like the classroom with the most bucket fillers, you know, has to have a pizza party. But again, like if we want to really build intrinsic rewards, we may just like have a celebration or have students come up and talk about their experience. And then we want to think about like reinforcing these throughout different parts of the day. Do you have a morning meeting? Are there opportunity for class meetings? Could you have some kind of bucket filler system where you really highlight each other or yourself? End of day reflections, assemblies. Do you reinforce things through positive reinforcing language? Like every time, you see a child doing something where they're following the expectation, like, wow, that's really taking care of yourself. That's really taking care of others. A very, very low-hanging fruit way of getting, positive behavior really in place. And then in the SEL world, we like to talk a lot about teaching behaviors like you would an academic subject. So if you're noticing, let's say, you really think, students need to be better at being kind to each other. And so having a lesson on how to be kind, how do we talk to each other? How do we look at each other? How do we, all those things. So instead of, and I think as we get into the middle school, high school, we kind of expect that kids know this, but I think more and more we're seeing that they really need this modeled and taught very explicitly. And then finally, just kind of at what I mentioned before is how our organization works is that we come together and we have teams that look at different trends in the school, what's working, what's not. So all of these are ways that we can think about reinforcing these expectations for students and staff. Any other ideas before I move on that you all are doing in your schools that you think is working? Anyone open to sharing? Okay, I'm going to keep moving for time's sake here. But again, I do feel like the wisdom is in this room, and I'm just one little person who gets to observe these wonderful practices. So please feel free to share. So finally, thoughts. How does this resonate for you? Any ideas that you can bring back to your community? What resources may you need? We'll just do this as like any questions. This could be like a few minute time just to please enter in anything that's sticking with you into the chat box or anything you're looking forward to trying. Okay, thank you so much, Lorraine. Lorraine, if we were in a group of in person, I would sometimes like hold my breath and say, I'm going to hold my breath until someone shares. So thank you for being that first person. Yes, educating all staff, bus drivers, lunch aides, as everyone on board. And it feels so good for not just students, but for staff to be included in all that important work. So thank you so much. I love this. Sven, having our values in our report cards to communicate that to parents. That's wonderful. Oh, and Allison said, I got a great idea from Sven from Rhode Island. I would like to implement in our school. Allison, can you care to share what that great idea so we can all maybe implement?
Yeah, so actually Sven just said it on their progress reports and on their report cards, they have like 4 values that they talk about in their school, and on their progress reports they have the teachers sort of like comment on how well they're doing in those areas. So it really brings the parent community, like the parents, involved a lot more, which I thought was a really good idea. And there was another woman who was in our breakout group from Livingston, and we both said it was something that we would like to try to implement because the parents don't always know what we're doing in school. It's hard to get everything out to them all the time, and this would be a really great way to reach all of them and be able to start that conversation about like how they're doing with these certain values. And then if they're having a little difficulty in one area, it's a great way to start a conversation and things. So
that's such a great, I love that idea. We should create that throughout New Jersey.
Yeah, it was a really good idea.
Thank you so much for sharing. And then Andrea, I'll be presenting Thursday and show gratitude when people follow the expectations. That's fantastic. So wonderful. Any way to positively highlight that. Okay, so I'm so glad that the breakouts went well and that you all got to share with one another and got some good ideas. That's wonderful. We'll just close out on this one question. And so I love this question is like, if you could impart one thing to your students as they leave your schools, as they go through life, like what would be that one thing that you would want them to hold on to, like, you know, that they intrinsically, latch onto. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing that one thing, and then we're gonna, oh, it's 1:30 exactly. Awesome. I'm gonna hand the mic back over to Liz. I
Oh,
can just
Erica,
share.
feel free to wrap it up for another minute or two if
Oh,
you'd
okay,
like.
yeah,
No
okay.
problem.
Okay, Lorraine, show kindness to everyone you meet. That's wonderful one. Kindness. Open honesty about mistakes. Don't be too hard on yourself. Wonderful. I had one teacher I was working with recently say, she felt like she works in a middle school and she only has her students for certain times of the day. And she just said, I want them to know that like, no matter where they are, their environment might not always be the most supportive, but that they can look to themselves and that they can have the answers. And I was like, oh, I love that. So I thought of this question, and these are also so wonderful. To have integrity, loyalty, always try your best, to always make mistakes, that everyone has something of value to offer. That's wonderful. Who's doing all the hearts? I love the hearts. Oh, Christina, those are so great. I've not seen that in like a Zoom chat before. I think those are so fun. Listen in such a way that others love to speak to you. Not my quote. Trish, I love to speak to you. I love to listen to you. So you do a really good job of that. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. This was really, oh, sorry. I don't want to cut it short. Be curious rather than judgmental and critical. I recently asked my husband what he thought our core values are for our family. We had very different ones, but he said that curiosity was one core value. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that you bring that to our family, because it's such a wonderful one that I don't think about very often. But yes, just being curious about the world and other people is such a wonderful quality. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much. This was I hope this was helpful, and it was really wonderful to hear you and read your thoughts and ideas. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Liz, I will.
Great.
hand
Well,
it
thank
back
you
over to
so
you.
much, Erica. That was just it's so important because as you said early on in the presentation, there's all these wonderful expectations and wonderful words, and you can't really find fault with any of them, but when they're all jumbled up, the important messages can get lost. So thank you so much for making sense of that. And thank you for spending time with us, everyone. Tomorrow we are here at 1 p.m., so slightly later than today. And we're going to be hearing two presentations, SEL in the workplace and SEL in the arts. Both are just going to be fabulous. The presenters are very experienced and have so much to share. So we hope you'll all be able to join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. for the SEL in the workplace. At 2:10 will be SEL in the arts. Likewise, on Thursday, there's going to be 3 workshops. SEL leadership, how to obtain a certificate in SEL leadership, which is a wonderful, wonderful program. Something from school counselors. And I believe, Andrea, you were on the Zoom call just now. That's going to be really important. What does it actually look like, SEL in elementary schools? And then we're going to be hearing from colleagues regarding the NJ Sky Climate Survey. So that's going to be great, including Pat Wright from PSA. So that's fabulous. And again, happy SEL week. If you haven't already, please log on to selday.org. Not only will there be more descriptions about the workshops we're offering tomorrow and Thursday, but also information regarding the full day long SEL Day Summit on March 8th. Which is going to be really just fabulous presentations all around. And all of these recordings from all 9 of the workshops we're providing this week will be available on our SEL4NJ website. We just need a couple of hours, a day or so to get them up there. So, so we hope you use them and continue to learn from them. And just want to wish everyone a lovely afternoon and SEL week, and hope to see you tomorrow. So take care, everyone. And thank you, Erica. And thank you from earlier today. I see Bill is still on as well. That was a great introduction to the Schools of Character program.